Renata, I have only a dozen questions for you. And this is going to be done a little bit differently. We're going to start with a series of questions, and then as you have a question, please raise your emoji hand and we'll get to you. But I only have a dozen or more questions for you. So let's begin by appreciating both of your books, which each chronicle the plight of juveniles detained in various detention centers around Florida and Georgia, but primarily in Duval County. Now, you wrote in I'm Here for the Girls, in the beginning, you had no plan, no curriculum, and no idea what you were going to do once you got inside. Now, why did they let you in? And could you describe your initial thoughts as you began your journey?
Uh, I'm in the introduction, you have it. First, let me thank you all for this opportunity and for everybody who joined. Second, I'm here for the girls, uh, came second. PS Never Give Up Hope came first.
Oh,
And I used to work for a local organization, a large organization that serves children here in after school and an after school program as well as case management. And we had several sites. So I had an office inside of a school. And during that time, I would say 2010, I started there and I was reading the Florida Times Union, and there was an article about a young man who was 14 and sentenced to life. So I posted that article in my office at the time at Rains High School, and it would be an attention grabber for all of the students who would visit my office. And we'd talk about it, and they would ask me questions, but of course I didn't have the answers. I didn't know him. I had nothing to do with the case. I was just interested in, uh, sharing that story with young people to deter them, I guess, from making the same decisions. So I decided, because of all of the questions that I would get from the kids, oh, I'm going to reach out and write him. And I started corresponding with him, and that uh, turned into the book, in essence, the book. It took me years to write that. I did not just write a letter and then say, oh, I'm going to put you in my book. I researched the story. I pulled public records. I went to the public library, because some of the people featured in the book, their crimes occurred before there was internet. So I had to go on microfilm to pull up those articles to fact check. I've researched whom their attorneys were, who defended them at the time that they were sentenced, to ask questions. I found witnesses. I put a lot of research into fact checking the things that they told me, but more so, I wanted young people to hear it from sort of the mouth of babes, I guess you could say, because as adult professionals, especially working in a school setting, oftentimes we give young people advice and it's not taken the same as it would be from their peers. A peer who has gone through exactly what it is that I foresee their behaviors leading them to. Does that make sense, everybody? Because I've never been incarcerated. I've never been arrested. I've never, so I needed to go to a place where young people could give them that advice. And that is how PS Never Give Up Hope was
yeah.
birthed. And I would end all of my correspondences with them with the PS Never Give Up Hope. So that is why I titled the book as such.
How did you get in? What was your entree? How did you didn't just walk up to the, did you, and was it a jail or the Duval County Juvenile Detention Center? Where did you begin and how did you get entrance?
I reached out to the Department of Corrections. I let them know that my plans of writing a memoir with the young people housed in their facilities, and I got clearance from there. And I visited several people. It Word spread, I really don't remember how, but it was featured on a documentary called Human. It's on YouTube now. It's several years old. It's over a decade old, but it has several million views. And they went in and they followed me in, not followed me in, but they went in and interviewed several of the people that were featured in PS Never Give Up Hope to highlight juvenile justice in America and the school to prison pipeline and just the growing epidemic of incarceration amongst young Black males.
Uh-huh. And was this the Duval County Jail?
No, it was different prison facilities. I don't remember precisely which ones, because it's been well over. One of them was Indian River, which has now been closed down, but it was a juvenile camp.
Uh-huh. And about how old were you when you wrote your first letter to the authorities that let you in?
I would say I was less than 30. So probably 20, maybe 27, 28.
I see. Uh-huh. And you haven't looked back since, right?
What do you mean by that?
I mean, you've just taken it and it's snowballed, and you've developed what started off as a curiosity and a passion became a passion, and your passion became essentially
It,
what your life's
it,
work.
it became my life's work.
Right,
Yes.
right.
From
Which
the one letter.
now
Mhm.
the large corporation that you did work for as a case manager, I understand, was called Community in Schools. Is that true?
That's absolutely correct. Yes.
And they somehow did they train you to become a case manager? How did that process happen?
So I actually left corporate America in 2010 to work at communities and schools. I was working in mortgage tech for lender processing services, and I started working and at with communities and schools as a case manager, and they placed me at Rains High School for 1 year. After Rains, then I was transferred over, because as you know, with nonprofits, they're grant funded, and the funding, I believe, ran out that year, and they had more funding, but I couldn't be at Rains. So they placed me at Westside High School. I stayed at Westside for a total of 7 years, 7 school years. So,
Uh,
the calendar year is not the same as the school year, but 7 school years.
right.
So I serviced over 1,000 students during that time.
And what is the role of a case manager? Take us through those responsibilities, if you would.
A case manager is assigned a caseload of students, and you assess whatever it is their issues are, and you put them in touch with the resources that they may need. So if there is issue of homelessness, then you put in a referral, you can't reach out, and you also find your own resources. So I feel like that was my strong point in having strong relationships with my students at the time, building relationships with outside resources such as Catholic Charities, full service schools, United Way, Child Guidance Center. If there's a student who may have mental health issues, then you may put in a referral for them to get therapy and counseling. If you see that there's a student with anger issues or things of that nature, if you have a student that is involved in the criminal justice system, then you build a relationship with their probation officer to ensure that they're coming to school. If they don't have clothes, then you refer them to a clothing closet, or you use the funding from your grant if there's an overage or a line item that you can spend, and you can go and buy them clothes and shoes. Anything it is that will fill in the gap to ensure that this student is not lacking in any area that will contribute to them dropping out of high school, in essence.
Hmm.
If I notice that several days go by and a student is not in school, then we would make home visits. That was that was one of the most things that I loved about my former employer, was that we did home visits.
Uh-huh.
It's to identify what's going on with the student, you have to know where they come from. And I was big on that. So visiting the home, especially when they miss school.
And what, David, I see your hand is up. I'll get you in 1 minute. And what was your typical caseload per week or how did you track it, and who assigned them to you? The school or the community in school nonprofit?
They were assigned by uh it could be based on test scores, it could be based on behavior patterns, it could be based on if the guidance counselor felt like I possessed a resource that the student could utilize, then they would send them to me. And I had 100 students per school year.
Wow, 100. And how much time would you spend with them each? in a month's time, or how did you chronicle that?
What I liked was that they allowed us, I guess you could say the freedom to kind of build your program. So my actual title was like a program director, sort of. Um, I would have group sessions after school. I would have lunch sessions, so I would eat lunch with several of them. I was also the sponsor for the student government. To also to teach them how to think freely and to express themselves and to make not necessarily complaints about the things that were going on at school that they didn't like, but just an assortment of things. They could drop in, they could get a hall pass and come and speak to me if they needed to confide in me something or get or utilize one of the resources. So I had what was called like a don't ask, don't tell policy in the office. If you need something, I had a clothing closet, file cabinet that they could just get the things that they need. You don't have to tell me why. I don't want to embarrass you if there's something that you needed. And the students would always come in to get what they needed.
Mhm. Okay, okay. I appreciate that. David, you're muted, so there you go.
Okay. Hey, Renata, thanks for
Hey,
coming out
David.
and talking to us. I'm trying to get in my mind a more full picture of what you did, and I was wondering if there were any cases that you consider success stories while working with these young people that you could tell us how you went through, how you helped the kid, how the kid got out of his trouble or got back into society or whatever. What would be an example of a success story in the work you do?
So I have several success stories from that time, but I'm very far removed from this work, nearly 10 years. So I have not done that in over 10 years. I'm self-employed. Um, but mm, I had one of the during the last year of me being there, we had the highest graduation rate from our site. The students that I worked with were 2 to 3 years behind on grade level, and they graduated. So I can't recall, I'll be honest, the amount I used to, like I said, I sponsored student government. So I would take the children from National Honor Society over to the feeder elementary school to tutor them. And we tutored the children in the STAR program who were 2 to 3 years behind on grade level. And the year that I ran that program, every one of the children in the STAR program successfully passed the state testing and they were promoted to their appropriate grade level. So when I talked earlier about peer counseling and peer tutoring, those things really do work. They are effective. So those are two of the biggest successes, but I have a lot of individual success stories.
Okay. And we're going to
And
get,
some of them, David, are listed on my website, and I can put the link in the chat box, and you can go. A lot of the things that I've done have hit the media.
is your website Renata Hannans?
RenataHannans.com.
Right.
Yes.
That's okay. But please put it, or Madeline can put it in, or somebody will put it in. Corrine, you've got a comment or a question for
Hey,
Renata?
Renata.
Hi, Kareem.
Such a wonderful, inspiring and uplifting story and everything that you did. When you were doing this, now I just want to make sure I understand. So you were with communities in schools. What was it called?
That's it. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. So well, one thing you said, they didn't give you like referral resources if somebody came in and you had to find out all those for yourself.
No, not necessarily. There were some, but things change, as you know. Programs shut down for whatever reason, they close, and as time goes on, you find out things on your own to add to the list of
Okay.
things that were already in existence, if that makes sense.
It does. Are all those on your website now?
No, ma'am. Like I said, I'm so far removed from that work. I no longer, while I was doing it, I was simultaneously, I'm also a criminal defense private investigator. So attorneys and criminal defendants hire me to investigate on their behalf. So after I left there, I started doing this full throttle. I was already doing it part-time while also working, but since I'm no longer with that organization, that's what I do full-time now.
So actually, you just gave me another question I want to ask, but I'll ask the original question I had first. When you were doing this, and like you said, sometimes you had to go out to kids' houses and stuff so you could really understand what was going on and things like that. Were you connected with the DCF? Did you have to refer sometimes to the department if you saw things that were you like a mandatory reporter, or were you able to keep them out of it?
Yes, you are a man. Anytime you work in a school setting, you're a mandatory reporter, but I witnessed anything that required me to report something, if that makes sense.
It
It wasn't on that level. The home visits were not investigative. The home visits were because, okay, this student has missed several days, so I'm gonna stop by because I can't reach anybody by phone. I need to talk to mom. We've called mom several times, and a lot of times too, you notice that the issues that young people face are not big, for a lack of better terms. It could be something very simple, like, everybody knows school just started a few weeks ago, or last month, and people buy new school clothes. So on the first week of school, you'll notice if financially children can't afford new school clothes, they won't come to work until mom can afford to get them new things. Well, that's not a reason not to come to school. Not if we have the resources that can get you some things until you get, or I have a supply closet, and you can come in and get a pencil and some paper and a binder until mom can afford to get some. Or if
let me interrupt you. I appreciate your approach to the whole thing, and I can certainly see why the students and other adults at the time that you were involved with trusted you. So let me ask you this other question now that I thought of as you were talking. You say now you're a you criminally investigate for people will hire you to investigate issues or some kind of case or something going on.
Well,
that is correct. I am a criminal defense private investigator. I own a criminal defense private investigation firm. I run background checks. I do jury consulting for criminal trials, and I investigate on behalf of criminal defendants who are being prosecuted.
Okay, and that's here in
Corinne,
Jacksonville?
Corinne, I want to get into that, but let's back up a little bit before we get.
Well, she's just so interesting, Ken.
Right.
Okay,
Hold on.
thank you so much.
All
I'm
right.
so glad I got to hear you and meet you today.
But we're not done. We're going to go back to her private investigative work, and we've got a lot of questions there. And I want to also talk about her work with her organization, PS Never Give Up Hope. We're going to get to that as well. But I'm not quite done with this case managing thing. I'm kind of curious, what did you notice in terms of a thread among the students that turned out to be more trouble than some of the other students? Did you see some commonality among them that you could address? Or, for example, they were broken homes. They were in a foster home. They got associated. You said, "I'm here for the girls," and in that book you talk about how men played a big role in a lot of the women's incarceration. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Absolutely. Okay, that was a loaded question. So where do you want me to start? The trend that I saw in working with adolescent youth.
Yes.
All right. So there's not one thing that was recognized, but like you said, an absent parent. Divorce is a traumatic experience for children that when we talk about it as a family unit, you talk about it between a husband and a wife, and the their dealings, but what about the children left behind that are now in the home and they're missing the parent, or a parent is deceased, or a parent is incarcerated, or the financial issues of the home trickling over to the children. Like I said, not having the appropriate clothing, food, housing, all of the basic necessities that we all need as adults that children are lacking. It affects their performance in school.
Drugs.
Drugs, and nobody comes to school and just openly tells you this is what as educators or staff or people who work with young people, you observe it, you see it. One of the other practices that I adopted while I was there, I had a coworker, she was at another site, and she would have the food bank come over on Thursdays and Fridays. And again, it was a don't ask, don't tell kind of policy where the students would come and get things to take home over the weekend as a staple, because as you know, some of these young people, the last meal they have a day is what they eat in an after school program. They may not have food at home to eat. These are issues that a lot of people don't even think of because it's not their issue. And depending on the school that you are assigned to, some of these young people live in food deserts. There's literally nothing to eat in the areas in which they go to school and they live in. But these are grown people issues. These are not issues that children even know how to navigate. So the idea that there are programs in existence, not just the one that I used to work for, Boys and Girls Club, there's several that are doing the work that fill in the gaps, that provide the basic needs and resources for children. And simply having a caring adult that is not a teacher, that is not mom, that is not dad, someone that can observe these issues, someone that can listen to young people. And every young person that makes poor decisions is not making them because they want to. It is a snowball effect of some of the things that they may be dealing with at home.
To be successful, you have to build a level of trust. Did you find that difficult? I mean, I know you said you sat with them at lunch, but how did you build that level of trust that they could confide in you?
It just comes natural. You affirm them every day. One of the things that I still say today that I started while working there was, today is going to be a great day. And that's how I greeted my students, not with good morning, not with hello, not with today is going to be a great day. And I still say that today. I still say that. It is my mantra.
Mhm. Cool. Now, I'm here for the girls. You talk about men playing a very significant role in the incarceration of women
Absolutely.
from your experience. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So I'm going to put her on the spotlight. Unique is one of the viewers on here today, and she is one of the women highlighted in I'm Here for the Girls. I'm here for the girls. When I say that men play a major role in incarceration, female incarceration is a growing epidemic. We have one of the largest prisons in the state of Florida, and it is a female facility, Lowell Correctional Institute. They have over 5,000 beds, from juvenile all the way up to death row for incarcerated women. Many of them are mothers. With that said, I decided, wow, people need to know about this. And when I say that, it doesn't start with the crime that placed them there. When I say men play a role in female incarceration, like we just talked about the absent fathers, that is the start of it. That's the start of these behaviors, even in myself, in choosing a lot of the women who I have, who I highlighted in the book, they had male co-defendants. They were vulnerable to them. They were taken advantage of, and they made poor choices as a result of their association with them. A lot of them were, and a couple of them were in abusive relationships. and they are incarcerated for ultimately killing their abusers. It is in Ocala, Florida, Corrine.
Ocala. There you
Yes,
go. Yeah, Corinne just posted a question and you answered.
yes.
Yes, right. Um, so you describe several, if not more than several, in
Mhm,
Here for the Girls,
mhm.
people who, the women who got in trouble because of the actions of men. They were driving a getaway car, and then somehow there was guns involved, and somebody would get shot, and then maybe subsequently they would die, and then the woman would get incarcerated and convicted as a result of that.
Along with her male co-defendant, yes. So I'm not blaming the man because ultimately it is your choice to make those decisions. However, men do play a role in most of the women who have encountered incarceration.
Mhm, mhm. Um,
And
and
Unique, do you want to speak to that?
Hi, everybody. In my situation, I mean, I grew up without either of my parents. I came to know who my mom was when I was 13. My father was never there. I think I met him for the first time when I was 6. He disappeared. He made a debut at 12. And ultimately, every man up until my recent relationship, every man that I chose was who I thought my father was or what I thought, was love. I attached myself to unhealthy and toxic individuals to the point that it led to my incarceration. And, me and my counterpart both got arrested. And if it was up to him, he'd have never did any time. It would have been all on me because he literally stated that he wanted me to take that charge.
mm, Unique, where were you held?
I was in Texas, and prison in Texas.
Um, okay, can you say which one?
Oh, I was held. I'm sorry.
Oh, maybe
I
more than
was
one.
I was held at which one is it? Let's see. Okay, so I started out at Plain State Diagnostic Center. And then I went back to the county jail, and then they took me to Woodman Diagnostic Center. So I never s- gracefully, I didn't actually get to see a prison yard officially because I was still in diagnostics because of the way the trial was going. Ultimately did 11 months before coming home on parole.
How long? Oh, 11 months. And how old were you when this happened?
Hmm. So that was 6 years ago. I'm 44. So I was in my late 30s.
Late 30s. Wow. Would you do things differently today that you did then?
Absolutely.
What have you learned?
Well, I learned who I am. At some point in time, I lost sight of who I was. I never really paid attention to what I needed. I was always worrying about being perfect for everyone. I became a unofficial perfectionist in everything in my life, from school to family to the people that I chose. I felt like I had to be above reproach with everything and everyone, that I never really worried about me. As long as I was taking care of his needs or what my kids needed, I'd be okay. I never really thought about me. So I'm in a relationship now where I'm forced, you have to be the priority.
Mhm. Cool. Are you enjoying your situation now? You feel like
Absolutely.
that's, well, you sound like a success story. I'm glad you're with us. That's fantastic. I appreciate you being here. Would you say both, I can ask you both, Unique and Renata, are these facilities that we're discussing, are they considered safe for the person who is incarcerated in them?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. No,
Well,
No.
I'm going to take that as a no.
no.
No, 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 no. So
Yes.
describe why they are not safe and who are the perpetrators that make them not safe. Are they other inmates or are they more the guards or what's that situation?
It's both.
Both.
It's definitely both. So when
Both.
you go into incarceration, starting at the county jail, they are very inhumane with how they handle you, from your dress out to your fingerprinting, if whatever you may need. Um, the county jail is not so bad compared to the actual prison. When you go to prison, You stand up in a room full of probably 100 people, and they completely defile you down to your birthday suit, and they expect you to hold all your areas up while they, they're standing there with a flashlight. They're talking to you like you're worse than a dog that they met off the street. Once you get through that situation, once you get to, your housing unit, for the most part, you're preyed upon with the people who've already recycled themselves through the system. The guards are in a bubble. They're not, in the room with you. So it's like, even if you were to try to get somebody's attention, it's going to take them a minute to get there. A lot of times you have to worry about the other people around you versus the guards. Now, if you have a corrupt guard who's not really paying attention and they're getting paid by another set of inmates as well as the state, they're adding, more harm to you. So it's like, if you don't really know how to go in and do your time, or you don't, you watch too many crime shows on TV, you'll go in with the misconception and you'll miss certain things, or you'll put yourself in harm's way instead of just kind of keeping your head down and minding your business. There are things that I saw during that 11 months that I could never unsee.
Um, I'm going to assume you saw violence.
Absolutely.
Did you see stabbings?
I did.
Were you ever accosted?
Uh, I was the week before I left.
Oh, wow. You could see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Absolutely.
Was that
And I
event
mean, and they set you up. They try to get you to lose your date because they're not going home. So they don't want you to go home.
really? So you knew the people that did this then, right?
Well, I mean, I didn't know them before. I mean, didn't know any of them, but I mean, I spent enough time with them, every day living on the same dorm with them. I knew enough about them to know exactly who put me in those positions.
Were you able to leave a week later?
Absolutely.
Oh, that's good. And were you able to go home at that point?
And I did.
Oh, fantastic. And that's great. I appreciate it. Renata, I'm sure you're not going to disagree with anything that Unique said, but you have a different perspective. You've seen different facilities. Would you characterize the facilities in Duval County similarly to the one that Unique described in Texas?
No, I don't, um, there's two parts to me, like I said. It, me writing a book and getting people's testimonials and their experiences and their sharing is completely different from my professional access in Duval County, if that makes sense. Duval County people have not been sentenced yet. It is not a prison. It's pre-trial detention. So it's different than that, what she's speaking in reference to. And my role there is different when I enter there to see my clients, if that makes sense. I'm not they don't necessarily know that I am the hope dealer. So I don't really get those complaints because that's not the role that I play there, and I keep them separate.
Mhm. Um, well, so you call yourself the hope dealer. Did you give yourself that title?
Yes, but
Uh,
it's stuck for over a decade.
yeah, it's stuck. And you're not the only one that has been successful using the word hope. Famously, Barack Obama had a poster made by Shepard Fairey. You remember that poster that was very stylized with the word hope on top of it? There's lots of great quotes about hope too. That Emily, lots of them. So you find that your moniker, the hope dealer, precedes you as you go places now.
Absolutely.
That's good.
Absolutely.
Can you talk a little bit about your nonprofit? I'm here for the girls.
No, it's PS Never Give Up Hope.
Yes, never give up hope. That's your incorporation.
Okay, so since 2013, we have gone inside of the Duval Regional Detention Facility, and facilitated sessions with the incarcerated youth there. It started with boys. And so I have to tell you, the title "I'm Here from the Girls" also stemmed from going to the detention center. I started with boys, and it was just myself. And then the higher ups from the state office in Tallahassee from DJJ came down, they met with me, and basically said that, we want you to work with the girls. And I was like, I don't want to work with the girls. Girls have attitudes. I'm a girl. Girls are mouthy. That was never what I wanted to do. So they moved me down with the girls. And when I would go in, I rang the doorbell, and they would say, DJJ, and they would come on the buzzer, and I say, "I'm here for the girls." And that is where that title came from, because that's what I say when I ring the doorbell when I go. I have not personally been in over 1 calendar year. My colleague Yolanda goes, and Yolanda is I don't know the appropriate title for Yolanda. She does yoga and meditation. She's a certified yoga coach and meditation, mindfulness, as well as Miss Nikki goes in. Miss Nikki is a licensed mental health counselor. So it's not traditional therapy, because of course they are not her clients, patients, I guess. But she does something called reality therapy, where basically they just have open discussions like this and talk about things. We provide them with books, and we take the text and relate it to life. Pre-COVID, oh, thank you. Pre-COVID, we had a book club at the Duval County Jail with children who are charged as adults, the children who were direct filed. And in 1 calendar year, we read 52 books with young people. So when you mentioned my awards in my introduction, the Read to Heal Award, that was one of the awards we received for that work. And I wouldn't be able to do this work without the 2 young ladies that I mentioned.
Yeah, oh, that's fantastic. What is your typical now we morph into you becoming a private investigator. That's
Mhm.
that's kind
I've
of
always done that
you
simultaneously.
how so? How have you always? Oh, you mean investigating the case studies and the individuals? Is that how you're referring to the always doing the private investigating? How do you refer?
So a lawyer actually taught me, rest in peace to Mr. Patrick T. McGinnis. A lawyer taught me how to investigate. I interned with his firm, Fennell, Nizami, McGinnis, and Andux. After I graduated from undergrad, I graduated from Jacksonville University in 2010 with a bachelor's in social science and 2 minors, psychology and sociology. And I was interested in going to law school. I met him. I was interning at the firm. He would give me tasks to do. He would send me over to the jail to interview clients. He would have me review surveillance footage. He would have me to transcribe depositions, things of that nature. And an investigator would come over sometimes that he would hire on his cases. And the rest is history. I learned about investigating, and that was it.
Something about it was exciting
It was very exciting. It was very and kind of created my own lane he taught me to leave no stone unturned. He taught me to go to every crime scene, no matter what the police reports say. We don't believe what they say. We go and look for ourselves. He taught me to, if people said there was a witness, but they didn't have a name, but they had a description, you go after them, you find them anyway, because those minute details can really change the outcome of a case. Criminal defense work is not I don't take it lightly that these people find me. I don't have a business card. I'm not in the yellow pages. You cannot find my number on Google for my service. It's all word of mouth. So the people that find me, I know this is a religious free group, but the people that find me, they were sent to me by somewhere, some higher power. I did not, it's word of mouth, all of it.
Mhm.
And I don't take that lightly.
Right. And why should you? This is your life. That's the beautiful thing about it. Have you been inspired by some of the great private investigators that we've all read about and watched in the movies, like
I mean, as a child, I watched Matlock. I used to
Matlock
watch,
is one of them, right?
of course.
Mannix before Matlock, but Sherlock Holmes, Philip Marlowe going before them. There, what's the name? Knives Out with Hercule Poirot. Dick Schwambert would know the name of that guy for sure. But
Poirot,
Poirot, right? Not Perot, Poirot.
Hercule Poirot.
Uh-huh. But these are all, and Pinkerton, the guy who, going back to the 19th century, was a precursor. He was a private investigator, a precursor to the FBI. It's through his work that the FBI finally got started in the 1920s. So I'm wondering, who do you look up to as private investigators? Do you have a cloche of friends who are also private investigators?
I do not. So my mentor, who is now deceased, who I mentioned, Pat McGinnis, he was my greatest inspiration to do this work. And I think of him every day while I'm doing it. I often think to myself, what would he do? Because I used to call him a lot to ask questions or to run things by him. And things that are what you consider to be the most outlandish thing to do, it's not. Because that one thing could save someone several years of their life of incarceration if you do it. So I think for a living. I sit in my home office and think every single day, what can I go after? What can I look for that could potentially help them or get them a better outcome?
How would you characterize the veracity, the truthfulness of the police? Go ahead.
Gil, what's your question?
Well, let me rephrase that. Have you ever found a police situation where they were not honest?
Absolutely.
And how do you deal with that? I mean, I understand you as a private investigator do one part of the effort in terms of bringing a case to court, but your work is critical to what the attorney relies on. If you make a mistake, then the attorney is going to get caught short as well. So going back to my question relative to the police, you laughed a big belly laugh when I asked, are they truthful?
Absolutely not.
Right. And that's the answer I thought you would say. But maybe they're not all, untruthful and deceitful, but maybe most. I don't know what that is. But you have to be so good that even with their lies, you can prove them wrong. Is that true?
That is absolutely correct. So in one of the more recent cases that I have, and we're about to go back to trial on this case because it was a hung jury, the law enforcement was very dishonest. There was a dirty cop involved that was pulling him over in an effort to take in the hopes of finding large sums of money and narcotics in the car with him, and they did not find that. And there was a confidential informant working with him, giving him this information to do so. So why would we believe anything that they said when this transpired?
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons that this gentleman was on trial was for fleeing and eluding. Anybody who has been wronged by law enforcement has an innate fear. I don't like pulling the color card, but Black men in America, as we see, are under attack.
Right.
Simply, especially by law enforcement. Those biases are there when they get pulled over and they look a certain way. they are treated the way they are viewed by law enforcement.
I
And even as a law-abiding citizen, someone who is not committing any crimes, if I am stopped and pulled over, I am fearful, especially here in Duval County. We have never had an unjustified police shooting in our city. All of them have been justified. Even when the criminal defendant or the person being pulled over is unarmed, even when they are following all of the instructions and commands being given, several people here in Jacksonville, Florida have been shot and killed by Jacksonville Sheriff's Office.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure. Yes, Gil, please ask your question.
Yeah, go ahead, Gil. I was going to call you on your now. Go ahead, Gil.
Well, I just want to say good evening to everyone. And I'm definitely appreciating this conversation. The side note, it's more of a side note. I'm really enjoying this because I've been in the corrections / probation field for 20 years. So, and I do a lot of what they call pre-sentencing, and I go to a lot of the prisons and talk to individuals. But I really only had one question for Miss Renata.
Okay.
Are most of the cases that you deal with, are they drug-related cases or are they stemming from drug-related offenses?
99% of the cases that I have are homicides, murders,
Okay,
Oh,
and shootings.
thank you.
With
uh, have you encountered in your work, do you travel alone or do you travel with a partner?
I travel alone.
Are you protected in some manner?
Well, I'm going to see people who they're not gonna bother me. And they're not gonna let people bother me.
Well, I mean,
They're incarcerated.
oh no, but doing your private, but your private investigative work, if you're dealing with homicides, I mean,
Mhm.
somebody was the shooter and somebody was the victim. All right.
Ken's
That is
watched Ken's
So,
watched one too many Matlocks.
so you get more when you're not aggressive in approach. So as I said, especially in the Black community, people are fearful of law enforcement. So somebody with the title of investigator walking around with a firearm is not going to get a lot of answers because they're going to think that I am the police, and they don't like the police. They're fearful of law enforcement. So I don't do that. I just walk up and ask questions. Hey, hi, I am Renata Hannans with Renata Hannans Investigative Firm. My client is,
mhm.
and he was involved in an incident that you may have been a witness to. Could you tell me what you saw? It's very simple. People are much more open to that than somebody coming around with a gun on their hip or a gun drawn and pulled at them, or they're fearful of that. Nobody wants to talk to you when they think you're the police.
Right. But so you've not have you been put in fear yourself in the process of being a private investigator through some of the people
No,
you've interviewed? No. Okay.
no.
And how long have you been doing this now?
I became licensed 10 years ago and I opened my firm 8 years ago, but I've been investigating since 2010, so 15 years.
Wow. Okay. Cool. And do you have any particular cases that stand out that you found the little piece of evidence that made it turn on that piece of evidence?
Yes, I have a client who was sentenced to 20 years for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. And there was a little boy in the store. That's all I had, was a little boy in the store. I had a surveillance video of him, and he was wearing a either red or navy blue shirt. It's been some years, so I can't quite recall. He was underage when the shooting, he was standing at the register paying for his things when the shots were fired. And he was the only eyewitness, but I didn't have a name. I knew nothing. His shirt appeared to be a school uniform. So I went to every school in the area. And when I got to the last school after several weeks, I was about to give up. I was just done. We were over it. I found him.
Ah,
Drove to his house, picked him up. He wasn't in school that day, and took him to court. His mom gave me permission to do so, and my client got probation instead because he was able to testify and say that he was not the aggressor. So investigators make all the difference in criminal defense cases.
Right. Did you ever get to work with Bill Shepard or Gray Thomas as attorneys?
Never worked with them, but I'm familiar with Mr. Shepard.
Right. A lot of people in Jacksonville are. He's,
Mhm.
he's kind of or rest in peace, a guru.
Yes,
I had
yes.
I had the opportunity to know him also, and same with Gray Thomas. I enjoyed both of their company every time we were able to get together. So, do you have designs to become an attorney, or have you found your life's work in being a private investigator?
I used to in my youth, but no, that has died.
How
No.
many attorneys are your clients now? Do you get to work for many of them in town?
Several,
Several.
several,
And
several.
is there any shortage of business?
No, at this time I have about 30 cases.
30 cases. And you don't have, without getting into the specifics of how you, I mean, the dollars that you charge, but is it a flat rate or an hourly rate, or is it different depending on the set of circumstances?
My hourly rate is anywhere from $75 to $100 an hour. I have a minimum, depending on what it is. But for uh for homicide, uh, it can be anywhere from 2,500 to $10,000.
Uh-huh. Do you ever take cases that are not homicides that might be family disputes that some jealous husband is trying to, or jealous wife is trying to, figure out what's going on there?
No, I do not take domestic or family. Those are far worse than homicides. They are far more messy.
How
They are.
so? How
The, I don't like drama. I don't like confrontation. I don't like if you feel like your partner is being dishonest, then chances are him or her is. And it's no need to hire anybody to find. Why do you want to know?
Okay. So, okay, I get it.
And what are you going to gain unless it's like, Jeff Bezos or something and you don't have a prenup and you're going to get $2 billion. Why do you want to know if what is that going to do? So I'm not going to get involved in that. It becomes very dramatic, very messy. And if I did, I would be rich because the hours you spend trying to catch people doing things, you spend more hours trying to catch them than they're losing. The person paying is actually honestly.
Mhm. Have you ever been involved in a private investigation where it dealt with a juvenile charged with murder?
Absolutely.
What was that like? And then Fred will come to you. Can you describe that a little bit?
I have two now, actually. It's heartbreaking. Because that's when the Hope dealer and Renata Hannans, the investigator,
Right.
intersect, and it's disheartening. It's heartbreaking. You know how they say it's no crying in baseball. There's no crying in uh in private investigating in a jail either. So I have to suppress those emotions and while I'm working because it will overtake you. I absolutely hate a lot of times we don't go to trial. Sometimes they plea and they get a lot of time and they're young. And I love young people. As you've heard, young people, especially juveniles in the system, that's my life's work. So I hate to see them go down that path. So yes, it bothers me. Fred, you have a question?
Yeah, so just from my background, I've worked at the courthouse for 25 years now, and I'm
Oh,
a manager of the actually technically a manager of the guardianship department, so I dealt with probate and guardianship, and I have seen a lot of toxicity in families, and people calling
wow.
been in my ear out saying about how horrible this other member of their family is, how disgusting, how they've done everything wrong, this and that. I'm just curious how often you get involved in involving on homicides with, because I know a lot of homicides will involve families.
I mean, I get the stares,
Oh.
when I go to court in the hallway. I hear the whispers, she's with them, she's with the attorney, you know. But just as the prosecution has the job to do, I have a job to do as well. So I have to remove my emotions, and I'm not allowed to, you know, speak to them. So people may think you're being rude or you don't care, but I do care. Because honestly, it's a loss for both. They've lost their family member, and my clients and criminal defendants are losing their precious time, you know, in exchange for poor decisions. It's no win, really, no matter, you know, sometimes like it's no win. That's the easiest way to say it.
Have you ever encountered in your investigation practice investigating the same person more than one time for separate offenses?
Yes, I have one now. I have a client who my work helped him come home and he's back. So, which brings me back to recidivism. Recidivism is very real. If the opportunities are not there, then chances are a person will recidivate.
Right. And in your work as a case manager, which prepared you in lots of ways for becoming a private investigator, you must be familiar with the school to prison pipeline.
Absolutely.
Can you speak a little bit to that? Because that's a real thing where it almost seems systemic, where they're grooming individuals to go into prisons to fund the the private prison system.
I won't necessarily say it's to fund the private prison system, but okay, so just like what I said, you work in the school system. So I have seen the school to prison pipeline like in real life. This kid comes to school. He doesn't have school clothes, shoes, school supplies. He may go to the store and steal. He gets caught stealing from Walmart. He's taken to juvenile detention. Now he's taken out of school into detention and he's facing legal sanctions based on his decision for doing that. He gets on probation. Now he violates probation. Now he has to go to a juvenile commitment program because he has now violated. All of this started because he did not have something he needed and he stole out of a store. Now he's out of school. Now he's in kiddie prison. He gets out of kiddie prison. Now he's on probation. Now he's 17 and he does something else. He trespasses. He gets in a fight. And now he turns 18. Now he's on adult probation. Now he violates that. And then he goes to jail. You see how that, it literally looks like that in real life. Now that was a made up example, but that happens.
Mm-hmm.
It literally happens.
Mm-hmm.
You're angry, you're homeless, you're living in a car with your mom. So you come to school and you're getting into it with the teacher or other students. They don't know why you're angry. You're fighting. You get an assault charge in school. So now you go to children do not do well and Unique. I'm going to pick on you again because prior to Unique's adult incarceration, Unique was in juvenile detention for how long, Unique? I don't know if she hears me or she's on here. Unique. She may not be on her, but she was in juvenile detention for several years.
Mm-hmm. In Texas, probably, correct?
In Texas, yes.
Right.
Yes, I was.
Oh, here she
There
is.
you go.
Here's Unique. All right. Did you hear Renata's question, Unique?
I did not.
I was just explaining to them, I gave them an example of what the school to prison pipeline looks like. And how working in the school setting, I saw it and witnessed it, and perhaps you could speak on it from your experience, because I explained that for years you were housed in juvenile detention as an adolescent. And I'm sorry, I keep putting you on the,
You're okay. I should have known when you invited me that this was gonna happen. So I'm learning to be prepared.
For the record, I absolutely love Unique. She has become a part of family now, just from her participation in the book. We have stayed in constant contact over the years, and she is a great resource. Like I said, I have interviewed people, I have gone in, I've seen it, but I have never personally experienced these things. So it comes best from people whom have experienced it, and her experience brings her a wealth of knowledge. And I'm extremely proud of her for all of the things that she's overcome. I think she's hard on herself, but these experiences build character. So feel free if you want to discuss in short the school to prison pipeline.
So the schools to prison pipeline, I mean, like she stated before, the reason that communities and schools or CIS is valuable to people like myself. I was a child that was in CIS in Texas, and I was withdrawn, angry, didn't want to talk to people because I felt like I didn't compete. I couldn't do donuts with dad, I couldn't do muffins with mom because I didn't have those people. So, going through having to be in survival mode, having to steal to eat and all of those things, going to juvenile detention for running away because my living situation wasn't the best. I graduated from elementary to juvenile detention, from juvenile detention to high school, from high school to county jail to the prison system. So, I mean, the school to school to prison pipeline, just like the foster care to prison pipeline, is real. And a lot of times it's something that is simple as a person having someone they can rely on, being able to have hot meals, clean clothes, it makes a difference. So, going from a person who was isolated to bullying to feeling like she had to be perfect in all things in order to escape those things, I found myself in a box.
Thank you, Unique. We are getting ready. We're approaching the end of our time with Renata. So if you do have a question or a comment, now is the time to raise your emoji hand and let yourself be heard. So let's go to former professor Lance Stoll, all the way from Thailand. Yay!
Hi, Renata. I just want to say how proud I am of you in the first place. Uh, uh, but I wanted to get a little political here. And what you said originally about helping children not to fall into the criminal enterprise makes so much sense and is so logical. But we live in a society where woke is this big bad word. And so we're blaming children for the mistakes of their parents and then making the children criminals in the future. It makes tremendous sense to end that school to prison pipeline, and it's probably a much cheaper approach, right? And I'm interested in, when you're talking to someone in the MAGA arena, and how do you explain why it makes much more sense to provide food and clothing and tutoring and other things to these poor kids rather than leaving them on their own to become criminals, like you described with the kid who steals for his clothes to go to school. That should never happen. How do we, and again, as woke people, a lot of us are woke people, it makes tremendous sense. As a sociologist, it makes tremendous sense. But how do you deal with the political realities in the United States today,
I
where
think
they want to punish those kids for the
Mhm.
poverty or the criminal behavior of their parents?
So the key word of everything you just said was woke. They have to wake up. They are completely unaware. As you know, people are ignorant. They think that we all are born on the same playing field, and we're not. if we have a race and you are right here and I'm way back here because I got to get my clothes, I got to get my shoes, I got to get something to eat. I don't have air, I don't have heat, I don't have housing. You have all of these things. So the
Yes.
socioeconomic difference between the people in the race, it's no comparison. But if you're unaware of that, if you don't, I have colleagues who aren't necessarily biased or racist, or they don't think less of others, but they are just unaware. Like, wow, I didn't know that kids go home and don't have food, because that has never been their reality. They don't know.
I was watching all this discussion about Charlie, the idiot that got killed, and he said to an audience, "No children are hungry in America." You know,
They
so,
are.
yeah,
They
of
are.
course they are. But
And you and to say that you don't, how would you know? If you, like I said, one of the things that I loved about my former employer was those door knocks, those home visits. And then you open that door and you see blankets on the floor. Wow. I have been on a home visit before. And the young lady, she had a baby in like 9th or 10th grade, and her and the baby were asleep on the floor. So when I went to go for the home visit, because she hadn't been to school in several days, I went in and held the baby while she got dressed. And then we went to the school and sat in my office and lined her up with all the resources. How would you know that if you've never been to, if I hadn't knocked on that door, I wouldn't have known that. I would have just thought she was skipping school or she wasn't at
Right,
school.
but the reality is you shouldn't have to know. Every kid should have access to food and medical attention at school. They're in school, right? I mean,
Correct.
you don't know. If a kid doesn't need that, they bring their own lunch, then they're okay. But
Mhm.
but all of those benefits are under attack today. So it's only going to get worse. They're cutting all those programs, healthcare, food assistance, everything.
Mhm.
And I'm just wondering, you're so intimately involved in it. How do you deal with these idiots that are making these decisions that are going to make society much worse, not better?
We have to focus on, I used to spend a great deal of time, especially in my 20s. If there were 24 hours in a day, 23 of them, I was arguing in the chat area on news sites and social media. We cannot focus our energy on trying to change the minds of people who their minds are set. We have to focus on solutions to the issues and educating our people, the people who are on our team, to vote in the right manner, or to vote, period. Because voter apathy is real. The people who need the change don't vote. It's the people like myself, like you say, who are intimately involved, who care so deeply for the people in my community and trying to get them to see why it is so important to vote. We can talk all day and nothing is going to change, because when you were here, you were a voter. I'm a voter. Many
I'm
of
a
you, I'm
voter
sure,
here
are voters.
until they
Okay.
take it away from me. They're attacking vote by mail, which will disenfranchise me and thousands of other people living abroad. Which of course is the idea, disenfranchisement, much as they can.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Gerrymandering and this, and I mean, we can talk for 10 hours about all of these things, and I am no longer spending my energy and my time going back and forth or debating with those who don't see, because I need to use that time to get the people who we need to affect change for to vote.
Let's go to Jeanette. Thank you, Lance. Let's go to Jeanette. And in order to vote, you got to get registered. So, Jeanette, you have a comment or a question?
Well, I'm mostly it's a comment with a request for Renata's feedback. My, you know, one of my biggest issues is with the corporate prisons that we have now, because they're literally paying off judges and police and school administration officials to send children to these incarcerating places because they've got to fill their beds for economic reasons. And that there is, I think it's a deliberate effort to do this. Renata, you're not giving me hope. I wanted hope. I need hope, Renata. We've got to fix this. We've got to
So
stop. We've got
that's the
to
thing.
stop this.
If you want hope, you got to look in the mirror. It's all of our jobs so we know what they're doing. The beauty of this is that we know what their efforts are to fill those beds. So now we must educate young people, the people who are there targeting to be disenfranchised. We need to educate them on what it is that they're doing so that they can stop making those same mistakes or making poor decisions that will lead them into these facilities. So those affirming young people, making young people feel loved. Love answers a multitude of things. And simply letting them, if every young person had a mentor or someone caring in their lives, then that would affect a whole lot of change.
Well, thank you very much, Jeanette and everybody. This is the last call for any comments or questions, but I want to take the time to thank Renata for your education, your wisdom, your insights, your graciousness, your obvious gratitude, the work that you do, your experience. And I think you make us a little bit better just for you being who you are. And I also want to thank Unique for offering us your personal story. You gave us some insight in ways because you actually lived it from a personal perspective. So I thank you very much, Unique. And I want to thank everybody who is on the call in the Zoom room with us, because I think we all learned something tonight. And that's why we do this. We do this because we want to educate ourselves. And now we can take what we've learned and forget about it tomorrow morning, or maybe try to learn more about Renata's work in her I'm Here with P.S. I'm Here for the Girls. And let's hope you never find Renata knocking on your door saying, "Where were you on the night of?"
I want to thank you all again for this opportunity. Thank you for hearing me out. I employ everybody to visit my site. If you haven't read my books, to learn, it's not about me. All I am doing is hopefully shedding light on the system. And I would also encourage everybody to find a young person, talk to them, mentor them, give them some hope. Be that light at the end of the tunnel. It is so simple. It does not require a lot. It doesn't take much time off of your busy schedules to volunteer at some of these places. Find your local detention place or organization that works with troubled youth and literally go and have a conversation and talk to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you say your books are not about you, even though you put them together, you wrote, you gathered all. That was actually private investigating in a lot of ways. You were trying to, you were investigating the case studies of these individuals that you included in both of your books. And I read both of your books, and I encourage you to go on Amazon and get them, or go to Renata's website. They're available for sale there. They're worth reading. You'll learn something just by reading both of those books, case studies. So thank you, everybody. Next month we're going to have we're scheduled to have a man named David Litvin, who I'm not sure, Lance. We still haven't heard back from David, so we got to figure that out. I'm not. He's also an author, and he's very vocal on what he has to say. But I need to learn more about David Litvin. But that's going to be we tend to meet the third Monday in the month. So if you have a calendar, you can look that up. But check out our website. If when we learn more about David Litvin, we'll post it there. And if you're not a member of our meetup group, become a member of our meetup group. You can become apprised of all of the events we're doing. And one last reminder, we're not meeting for Food for Three Thought this coming, the first Wednesday in October. In October, we're meeting on a Sunday, October 28th, in lieu of the first Wednesday of the month. Details of that will be forthcoming soon. Check our meetup group for that. So I appreciate everybody. And by the way, get home safely. All right, take care.
Can I just, is Renata still on?
Yes.
Yes.
Renata, I just want you to know that we may not all share the same belief system, but I think we share very common goals in the preservation and respect for human values. And
Absolutely.
I just thank you so much for, even though you do not, you knowing the group you were speaking to, that you did this for us. Thank you.
Absolutely. You can coexist with people who you don't share the same religious beliefs with.
I certainly hope so.
Absolutely.
I hope so. Who knows where we're headed? But right now, I'm glad that we can coexist. Exactly. All right. I appreciate you very much, Renata, and same to you, Nick, and everybody else. Good night. Drive safely. Get home safely, everybody. All right. Bye-bye. Thanks, Madeline, for all you do too. And that concludes